Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast. We are breaking down those unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Our guest today, one of my favorite people on Instagram, because I refer to him as like everybody's biggest cheerleader, because I see him liking, commenting, cheering everybody on. Luke Schnacke. Actually, I should ask you, pronouncing your last name, I want to get that correct for everybody that's listening. How do you pronounce your last name?
So I say Schnacke, but yeah, it really does. It does not matter. I guess I truly don't know either, but I've always said Schnacke.
All right. Luke Schnacke joining us all the way from Portland. We were talking offline about Portland. And I used to love going to Portland, man. Pre-COVID, it was always a great spot just across the border. Where, of course, we're here in Vancouver, where I'm recording, and it was easy drive to get to. Always loved the drive down there. Keep Portland weird was a big thing, the big motto of Portland, and I used to love going down there. Lots of good craft beers. That was kind of what it was known for. Craft beers, food trucks. It was a fun scene. I've had lots of good times in Portland for sure, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I moved here back in 2015 from the UK. Portland's the epicenter of the footwear industry. And that's what I worked in the footwear industry before, and the head office was here. So Nike are here, Adidas are here, Keen are here, Dana, blah, blah, blah. So, when it was a case of I've got the opportunity to move to the US, and then it was in Portland, and I came and visited the place, like, this is awesome. It's, an hour from the coast. It's an hour from the mountain. It's got like grit and culture to it. It was, I think, the most moved to city in the US for like a number of years running, certainly between that kind of 14, 15, 16, 17 period. And unfortunately, it got a bit too weird, and it's had its problems since. And as a result, a whole heap of people have left. All the businesses downtown have shut shop and left, and now they're in what went from a city that was having substantial economic peak, fell off a cliff significantly through poor leadership. Honestly, is what it comes down to, and not listening to the people that pay their taxes for the environment that they want to live in. And people are going to go other places, and businesses are going to go other places, and now they're in a world of pain.
Yeah, no, I mean, I still think it has a huge amount of potential. Like you said,
it does.
So geographically, it's beautiful. It's close to the ocean, close to the mountains, close to a pretty major hub, being Seattle as well.
Yeah.
Like a pretty major hub of business. But yeah, without strong leadership, that's what you're going to see. Is you're going to start to see this decline of structure due to some ideology that probably doesn't make sense. And maybe they're a little ahead of their time, maybe they're a little behind on the times. I don't know, but it is a beautiful city, and like very much like the UK. Yeah, a lot of really great architecture there, like very cool heritage buildings that have been around for a long time. I love what they've so much of the city right, has been restored. There's, you see down at like a lot of the wharf areas, old warehouses that have now been
Yep.
turned into retail spots. And funny you mentioned Keene, because I have this design, getting a little off topic here, but I went through this phase of designing the Secan, the container homes that were really big for a while, and they had some TV shows about formatting these different, changing these containers and building them in the homes and stuff. And I still have this really cool design where you have a container, and it's part of the house. It's flipped up on end, so it's standing up nice and tall. And then on the top of that is a little rooftop patio. And then what comes up in the middle of that, or in a section of that, is and this came from the Keene store when I was there in Portland, and I was looking at it and what they have in that store. And I don't even know if that store is around anymore, but they had this really neat crank that you would stand there on the floor and you would crank it up and down, and like all the shoes would go around in a big circle, and would go around and around and around and around, and you could just keep on cranking. New shoes would sort of start to come up, and I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, I think that this is what we need for bottles of wine to like come out of this rooftop patio, so you can just sit on the top of this rooftop container,
cool. Out of the wine cellar,
just crank it, and it just kind of comes straight out of the wine cellar, and it can be like a very cool visual thing all the way through the living quarters of this this container home. But it does go all the way to the rooftop, so you can just keep cranking it until you find a vintage that you like. And anyways, that was the vision. That all came from that experience in Portland, and checking out that store. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, that is cool. I think we should figure out a way to do that. I think I think that'd be a fun project.
Yeah, well, I'll put it on the list of ongoing projects that I already have, projects that I've started and will probably never get finished. There's just not enough time to do all the fun things of the day.
Although like downtown Portland has had its problems, like you say, it's still a beautiful place, and all the suburbs are unaffected for the most part about from the nonsense that's been going on downtown. So somewhat insulated from it, but ultimately, there's still some material problems. And again, if the businesses ultimately up sticks and move out, then their jobs, and that means that the people will go where the jobs are. So the people will leave as well.
Yeah, no, it is a real thing, man. It's same with companies, right? If there's poor leadership, or 100%. There's standards, and they your staff or your team members feel like their opinions aren't getting listened to, then they will up and leave and find an organization that aligns with what it is that they want, and where they can ultimately see their future growing. Because if they don't see a future there, then they know that their potential is going to be capped. And if potential is capped, then where they are right now is probably the best that they're ever going to be doing. This is probably the best that they're ever going to see, is probably the best that they're ever going to be. And that is not a very inspiring thing for anybody to wake up to and understand. But it does come with leadership.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's I've been in and around a lot of businesses over the course of my career in Europe and in the US as well. And a lot of what I have applied to the business here with Ironman 4x4 has been based on what I've seen there. A lot of learnings from I don't ever want to run a business like that, or a lot of learning from people's or businesses' problems have helped me. Being exposed to those have helped me with my leadership and growth of Ironman 4x4.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because Ironman 4x4 America, it is, we've talked offline about it before, but man, it is a cool business. It is essentially like you're building some super fun luxury products and for vehicles that are serving the off-road and the overland industry, and you have a really cool products for a very fun hobby interest. I mean, you mentioned some government contracts, I believe, or some defense contracts as well that you have been involved in, which we'll get into.
Yep.
But man, I have friends that just live and die for the weekend and their ability to get out and
Our
4x4, and they're packing up their kids, their families are now sharing this, and they're just 4x4 ventures. Man, it is a really cool industry. And if anybody has never had a chance to get out there on a dirt road in the gravel rocky mountains, and just like picture all the things that you're thinking about in your mind right now and just driving over all of them, you're the one that services those parts or provides them with the parts that keeps that dream going, man. Very cool grown up toys. I love what you do, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun. It is definitely fun. The fact that we've got this outdoor lifestyle part of the business is very in tune with who I am. I love to be outdoors. I love to help people get outdoors and have fun. And the product, like you said, is a vehicle, pardon the pun, to allow people to get out there and do that. Be it they're a weekend warrior and they're just going camping with a family, or they want to be more serious and they're going on a global expedition with the vehicle as their home on wheels. And vehicles are obviously, for a lot of people, vehicles are really an extension of who they are and their identity. So certainly within America and certainly within like US and Canada, people like to, even if they're never going to go off-road, people like to accessorize their vehicles. You might have an F-150. The likelihood is that it's going to get a bit of a lift and it's going to get some larger wheels and tires, set of steps, and they never got the intention of going off-road, but the thing just looks badass. It looks freaking awesome. So there's the aesthetic component, which we definitely serve, but the other component that we layer into that is the performance as well. And that performance will take you from the city street to, Patagonia. People literally tour the world with the products that we make. It's suspension, it's bumpers, it's roof racks, it's rooftop tents, it's awnings, everything that you need to basically tour the world with a vehicle. And then, like you said, there are other applications, certainly in different geographies around the world, because Ironman's a global brand. It's in, I think, 160 different countries. It means different things in different places. So in Australia, there's definitely the recreational side, but there's also all your contractors. They use pickups and vans, and there are different laws in Australia when it comes to like the weight that you can have in your vehicle and things like that. So they've got to upgrade their suspension to carry all their contractor gear. And then the other component of it is, and this is where a number of our products have come from, like a product line that we've got in suspension called Foam Cell Pro. It's where the bumpers have come from. It's where the winch has come from. Is the military and defense application, where again, things like Land Cruisers and Ford Rangers and other vehicles are adopted by the military and defense organizations and then upfitted. So they get dual battery systems and they get the bumper and they need the suspension that can operate in extreme temperatures in really extreme conditions. They add all this weight to the vehicle for protection ultimately. And with that weight, there's the need for the suspension. With that protection, there's the need for the bumper and the winch and all these other things. So here in North America, we really focus on the recreational side, which is fun. But even in North America, we supply the likes of General Dynamics on some unmanned vehicles, and they get our winches, for instance. So yeah, it's super interesting. And again, we just help people have fun, like the accessorize their vehicle because it looks cool and they're really proud of that investment and what they've made, through to being out in the wild and doing camping trips with their family and their friends. And with that come all these different experiences, which are very fulfilling. You know, it's an adventure, and with adventures, you come across pain and joy and unexpected adventures within the adventure as you're out there experiencing it, which are very, very valuable.
You mentioned the F-150, and that was a little close to heart because I'm that guy with the F-150 who's like, but I want to kind of do something. So, all right, well, let's lift it up. Let's get the bigger tires. Let's get the bigger wheels. Let's get the steps. Let's get the...
Real quick before we get back to the show, if you have heard anything on this podcast that has resonated with you, or if it's helped you in any way, appreciate more than anything in the world if you could go hit that subscribe button or leave us a review. It helps us tremendously. I want to go back to being able to continue to serve and do more and more and help out and get bigger and bigger guests on, better and better. The only way that I can do that is with your help. I'm so honored to be here. Let's get back to the show. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Let's get the rack. Let's get the lights on it. Let's do it. And let's, just go from home to the gym, to the grocery store, to the office, and never take it off road. But it's you like it. You jump into it. It feels good. It's a bit of an identity of who you are, ultimately, who you want to be. And like, just for the listeners out there, don't hate on me. I do take it off road. I'm just being facetious. I do get out there and take it camping, and just the same way as I did with my my F-350 before that. But it was I've had a huge amount of vehicles over the day, man. I was talking about this before, and every vehicle tells a story, right? For my first car I ever had, it was a 79 Oldsmobile Cutlass. I bought it off of a neighbor for $500 before I had my driver's license. This thing was was rusted out, but it was super gangster. It had it barely drove. It had a tape deck that sat on the floor because it was just it wasn't wired in properly. But the tape deck, had to go in and rewind it, and everything else. And but I bought this thing for $500. I got it fixed up. I cruised around. I put some stickers on it, and it was awesome because it was mine, and it represented who I was at that time. And then from there, every other vehicle since, whether it was the Pathfinder that I had, or I had a Pathfinder, which was, again, I got in this habit of buying $2,000 vehicles and thinking this is, when you're younger, this was good enough. But so many adventures. And I remember going on a surfing trip in this Pathfinder, and it was the whole frame was completely rusted, and I'm going down this bumpy road, and the frame actually totally snapped and separated, and I drove the whole way back just on the suspension, just on the springs, because there was nothing there. It was just driving around, and I got back on, loaded it onto the big ferry boat, and got it back to town, and ended up just over the next few days just welding some, taking some metal and welding it back together, and that was great. But that was an awesome time. And then I had to got into the Toyota 4Runner, which was an upgrade from that. And still, you get out, you do the thing, you load the dogs, get out in the woods. It was awesome. There was one vehicle that I actually, lots of vehicles that I have always wanted, but there's just not enough time today. What was the FJ Cruiser that came out for a few years there? I remember one guy rolling up, and he had that thing, and I thought that was the coolest looking vehicle. That looked pretty badass, and I saw myself maybe cruising around in that thing. Yeah,
it's a short wheelbase 4Runner.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, but you see these vehicles and you picture them. It's the same reason why you see a supercar driving down the road, and most people think that maybe you're judging the driver. They're you're thinking about that. For me particularly, I'm picturing myself and how I would feel driving that vehicle, and either I like it or I don't. But there is something pretty special about vehicles, and especially with the customization and the stuff that you can do, because like you said, it's you can do all these little things, but they represent you, and they make that vehicle unique, and it sort of identifies who you are and what makes you unique. And yeah, I think I don't know what my next vehicle is going to be. I have a pretty good idea, but I've been pretty happy with my pickup trucks. I've been driving pickup trucks for a long time now, and
Yeah, they're great. We've got an F-150 in our fleet. It's a 2022, I think it is. And I drove that for a good amount of time, and it is a great vehicle. It's fast, it's freaking comfortable, it's got a lift and wheels and tires on it, and a few other things. It's so good, both from a commuter vehicle, and I've had it in the dunes and been freaking ripping and jumping in it, and it handled everything. So yeah, awesome truck.
you must have because what was the year that you came to the States and founded Ironman 4x4?
So I came here in 2015, and that's when I was working with a footwear company. So actually, in 10 days' time, it'll be 11 years. So yeah, 2015 moved here. I was still working with a footwear company through 2000 and like late 2018. And I was also through the course of 2018. That's when I was looking for business opportunities and found Ironman. There was a little bit of it being distributed in the US through a fabrication shop not far away from Portland. And again, I've got this passion for the outdoors. I'd actually bought a 4Runner in 2018, which I'd put Ironman products on it. And at that point, I had no idea that I would end up basically purchasing and running Ironman in North America. But I had a great experience with the product. And I actually got stuck in Canada. I got stuck up in Toronto, and there was a whole issue with my work visa and kind of a green card process, which meant that I effectively got deported from America like 3 times over the course of like 3 days. But while I kept getting rejected by Border Patrol, and I'm stuck in an airport hotel in Toronto, I called the guy that was distributing Ironman. I was like, look, if I ever get back into the country, let's have a conversation about Ironman, because ultimately he really wasn't doing anything with it. I think because his focus was on his fabrication business. So he was selling a bit of Ironman on the side, and I think to the tune of like $150,000 worth of like revenue a year. So I had the passion to kind of get outside. I had the vehicle and I had the experience of the product. And then I did get back into the country, which was an adventure in itself. And then I ended up like doing the deal and starting like kind of like Jan 1, actually. I think it was January 15, 2019 is when I officially kind of got the keys of the business, which was at the time, it was like $100,000 worth of inventory of very mixed quality in terms of like its age profile and relevancy to the US market. And then there was a big commerce website, which was, pretty bare bones, and that was it. So I got that and I was like, okay, I need to start building this thing, building the awareness, understanding the products that the North American market needs, getting the inventory, figuring out how the hell to ship this stuff around North America. I need a warehouse, I need a staff, I need to create content, blah, 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 blah. All the things that you needed to kind of lift this thing.
Yeah, and you mean you needed to start running a business? All of a sudden, you had a business, and you needed to start running a business. Yeah, yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So 2019, that would have been like a year into business, roughly, before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
What did COVID end up doing for distribution? I imagine that was a big. Either could have been really great, or it could have thrown a lot of wrenches into things. But how did that start to affect your business?
At first, obviously nobody quite knew what was going on, so there was a lot of concern. But so we had like 2 weeks where sales dropped off a cliff. We did like $1 million-ish worth of revenue in that first year through the course of 2019. And then, it was 2020? I think it was 2020, like February and March time, when like everything went into lockdown, like sales dropped off a cliff as everybody's like, what's going on? But, as we changed our marketing tactics, because there were a few things that we did which really lent into the situation that people were in, ultimately stuck at home. So we're like, okay, we sell suspension. There are these people that's like sat at home, kind of not, don't have anything to do. Let's figure out how we can help people accessorize the vehicle in their garage with like their basic tools. So one, we delivered through the carriers direct to people's doorsteps. We weren't reliant on bricks and mortar. So our mission was to go direct consumer out the gates, remove any friction there. So the website, direct consumer, no middleman that we were relying on, no brick and mortar. It's like, if we got the inventory, we can ship it to your door. And then our content leaned into literally from unboxing through to every nut and bolt of how to get your existing suspension off your vehicle or your bumper and put this new suspension on your vehicle with very basic tools. So with that switch up in the marketing and the fact that the model that we chose lent into being able to talk direct to the customer and deliver direct to the customer, it took off. And I think over the course, and again, the further it went on and people had this realization that they're kind of stuck at home and not able to do anything, everybody started going outside. They went remote. I'm going to say we went from like 1 million in that first year through 2019 to maybe like 7 or 8 million in 2020. And then it just continued to grow because that COVID stretch was, for a good few years. So the business really, ramped quickly, which was awesome to not have any like revenue concerns. But at the same time, from an infrastructure perspective, took a lot. We moved locations multiple times as we needed to carry more and more inventory. Our systems needed to, it's like grow, break, grow, break, grow, break consistently. So there was a lot of learning and rapid iteration of systems and process and recruitment of people to be able to keep up.
I mean, that's a huge jump in revenue from 1 million to 7 million over the course of 12 to 18 months, right? That's big. Like the systems that you need to run a company that's doing $1 million is very different than a company that's doing 700 times that much or 7 times that much. Excuse me. But what did you learn like about yourself during this time? Because I imagine like there's a lot of holy shit, we're making sales, but like to build systems, bring on people that quickly, scale that quickly. I imagine there's a lot of just like white knuckling it and holding on, and probably like we're just like the motto must have been like we just got to get this shit done.
It was,
but
it was definitely,
I don't. You got to tell me.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of kind of get shit done, and there was definitely a lot of get shit done. But in a really organized, for the most part, organized fashion. I'm very good at compartmentalizing, so and prioritizing. So, when there's all these things going on, one of my skill sets is being able to identify the kind of sequence that we need to go in, and and the priority of that, and that kind of chain effect of like, okay, out of all this stuff, these are the priorities I need to start there. And that is going to have a knock-on effect of this and this and this and this. So that was one component that definitely helped. I seem to have a knack for like keeping calm under pressure. And then that equally kind of flows into the team as well. So I'm sure you've seen this, whether it's in yourself or within other people. Actually, a great example is with kids. If you're a parent, say the child falls over, they look at the parent for the most part to understand how to react. And if the parent runs over and is creating, really creating, the child goes off the charts. They're screaming and they're crying and like, because everybody's wrapped up in this ball of emotion. However, child falls over, it's like, deep breath. Okay, calm. Like, pick yourself back up. Like, let's take a breath. You're okay. Blah blah blah. Then they're like, oh, okay. I guess I'm okay. And it's honestly no different with a team or within a situation within the business. Like, there's a fire over there. One, is it really a fire or is it just noise? And if it is a fire, let's just take a breath and think through this rationally about how we're going to go through it. If I jump in, I'm like, ah, they're like, ah, as well. And that's not going to get us anywhere. So prioritization, thinking clearly under pressure definitely helped. And a lot of systems as well. Like, we jumped into, and I swear by this as a valuable asset for anybody in a small to medium-sized business, EOS and traction. We implemented those principles very, very, very early on, like literally in the first 6 months of starting the business. And that kind of entrepreneurial operating system of vision, core values, what our goals are, the annual goals, the quarterly goals, KPIs and scorecards. That was in from the very beginning of us starting the business, and also helped us from a prioritization standpoint and what we were focusing on and what was noise. Yeah, so that was super valuable as well.
Huge. Yeah, well, you mentioned fires, right? And
Mhm.
I love the analogy of, is it a kitchen fire or is it a dumpster fire, right?
Yeah.
Identifying the type of fire, because
Yeah.
there's always going to be fires burning, but prioritizing, right? If there's a fire in your kitchen, you better get to that pretty quick, because it's going to expand into the rest of the house, and it's going to cause absolute chaos. And it's like, get everybody out of there right now. This is the only thing we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
But if it's a fire in a dumpster, it's like, well, I can maybe burn there for a little bit. It's probably not going to cause any harm. We know that it's happening, and we'll get to it. But after we kind of get through all of this stuff, and it's probably not going to cause too much damage in its wake.
Yeah, correct. And I've got like, okay, so am I still marketing and talking to the audience? That's obviously very important. Can I take orders? Can I ship orders? Anything else in between is like not as important. Anything else in between can wait. But can I do those three like core things? Oh, I guess, do I have people? Is another important part of it as well. But if I've got those box checked, everything else is like less important.
Yeah, no, and is that something you mentioned, being able to compartmentalize and stay focused on the task at hand? Is that something that that naturally comes to you, or was that something that you've had to learn and work on over time?
I think, in retrospect, I think it's come from playing sports as a kid. I played golf to a reasonably decent like level, like county, college, and club. And playing sports, and in particular, in my instance, like playing golf to a decent level, there's the psychology there of that psychology of taking one shot at a time. And if one shot goes off, if one shot, you lose the ball, whatever it is, it's like, that's it. It's a shot. It's done with. It's on to the next. I can't really. There's so much there. I can't kind of package it up, but ultimately, I really do think like playing competitive sport as a child through like my early 20s really gave me a lot of like psychological strength that I took into everything else.
I think competition is great, and I think competition from a young age is awesome, right? But understanding why you're competing in the first place, and is there really anything at stake, or is this just designed to make you a better person, right? But I think competition is so healthy. It does so much, especially team sports. It teaches you so much, right? There's parameters, there's a framework of how you there's discipline involved. You need to show up to practice as a team. There's a framework for whatever the game is that you need to play. There's strategy that you need to evolve on. It's understanding key people in their roles that they need to play, understand your strengths, what it is that you need to work on, knowing that you can consistently get better and better and better if you're putting in the reps and putting in the time. And there's a referee and there's a scoreboard, so you know what's going to happen. And there's generally going to be one team that wins and one team that loses. And understanding that you can have the grace and humility of being on either one of those sides is huge, because everybody goes into a game knowing that there is a possibility that they can lose. And I think most people would go in that are performing at a high level, and they go in with the expectation that they're absolutely, without a doubt, going to win. And I think that's a mindset that a lot of the great athletes have, and certainly walk onto the court with, or the field with. But in the back of their mind, like, they may not win that game. And understanding how to deal with that is huge. Like I have 2 daughters at home. My oldest is 4.5, and we play cards, and we play Go Fish, and she's learning that right now and playing a few little games. She hates losing, and I hate winning because she hates losing so much. Yeah. So I'm like catching myself, just kind of being like, yeah, you know what, you just win. I'm going to let you cheat a little bit here so that you feel good about yourself. But over the last few months, and certainly when she gets older and gets to be about 5, like, that's not going to happen anymore. I'm not going to be able to let her win. And what I'm trying to teach her now is this idea of like, okay, well, what comes up for you when you lose? And understand that you are going to lose, especially when you're playing these games. But everybody gets a chance at winning. And how you react right now when you're losing is not something that you can do in real life. That's a very difficult thing to articulate to a 4-year-old, though. Yeah. So I'm working through that journey as a dad at the moment.
Well, good for you. I mean, just the approach that you take into it is freaking awesome.
I love what you said about golf too. I didn't know that you were golfers, so we're gonna have to get out and play around for sure. But
it's been a while.
I love what you said about, you have a bad shot, you get up, and it's all about that next shot, and that you can recover from a bad first drive or a layup shot in on the fairway. But I know I have so many friends where it's like they'll play 2 good holes, and as soon as they hit one bad shot, it's like, well, the rest of the game is over from here, and they just cannot get back on track. Yeah. And I have a really good friend of mine who has have deemed the best recovery shot in all of golf, right? Every single drive goes way outside of where it needs to go. It's over on the other fairway. It's in the woods. It's next to the trees, but he hits these miraculous recovery shots. And in my mind, I'm like, I think he psychologically just wants to get into these bad positions because he feels like there's an opportunity there to either make a really good shot and recover really big, or if he makes a shitty second shot, then he can kind of blame that on the first shot and to say that wasn't an issue. And I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of psychology in sports too.
Yeah, massive. Yeah. There really is the there's psychological element. There's the discipline. I mean, there's so many different positive facets to it. I'm a massive advocate for getting kids into sports. And again, even what I do now with regards to getting people outside in their vehicle, like family camping experience or adventures. Again, if you're out in the middle of nowhere in a vehicle and a tire blows out, or you need to recover the vehicle, I think adversity is a good thing, and the sports give you adversity in a really controlled environment. being in an off-road situation gives you adversity with being somewhat in an somewhat controlled environment. I think that's just such good character building for humans. Forget about kids, like for everybody, because there are adults that we go out with, into kind of the Oregon backcountry, and they get into a position and they've got to go through that process just like a child would, in a sporting scenario. It's just brilliant for people.
Oh, I mean, I can't agree enough. Even, I mean, we're talking about COVID. COVID was a huge thing. Like, it brought a huge amount of people together. All of a sudden, it was like we are all, as a global world, a global society, facing this weird thing, and we have to choose like who we're listening to. I mean, I remember, and it was there were different restrictions here, but it was like some days you couldn't see anybody, and then it was like the next week you could have, see 50 people, and then all of a sudden you could have 50 people in your backyard, and then it was up to 10, and then it was like, okay, well, you have to stick within your bubble, and then it was like, well, like, do you want to be in my bubble? Like, what are we? And then it was like, what are we doing here? But together, collectively, through adversity, we had to find a way, move forward, had to find common ground, had to decide what it was that we were going to stand up for.
Yeah.
And that brought a lot of people together. Now, it also divided a lot of people, and the people that were on either side of, whether we get vaccinated, whether this is a real thing, whether we listen to the government, whether we don't. It was very divided, but those people that were on one side, they found a huge amount of community and support together with their tribe. And over here, this group found their tribe. And but I've never learned so much about myself other than when I've been in difficult situations.
100%. It's where learning. Like, I truly believe that through those years where the business was doing phenomenally well, obviously I learned a lot, but you always learn so much more when things are tough, because equally, COVID bubble, it didn't stay there. So, the business has gone through a period of retraction as well, because the market demand has dropped. So going through that, and kind of right-sizing the business has been very challenging, but very valuable.
We've seen a lot of that over COVID. We saw a lot of new businesses pop up in our area, right? And I think all over the place, because as we were talking about, it was this weird world where all of a sudden people, they weren't together. They didn't have to commute to work anymore. They had this sort of remote world. They're sitting back in their homes. They're second questioning life. They're second questioning what they've learned. They're second questioning whether what they want for their future. They maybe move out to the suburbs. They decide, what, I kind of have this, come to this bit of a crisis of meaning here, and I'm just going to go and start my own thing because that sounds good. And they're, getting up here in Canada anyways, you're getting a bit of a subsidy from the government. They're paying you to stay at home, driving up a huge amount of debt. That's a conversation for another time. But all of a sudden there was this sense of, I'm going to go and I'm going to try something. So for a hot minute there was a lot of money in the in the general environment.
Yep.
People had a huge amount of equity in their home, which happened very, very quickly. Interest rates were very, very low, and people had money that was burning in their pocket. They wanted to get out. They wanted to do things. They wanted to either invest in their homes or with new vehicles, or because they were kind of locked in. And so there was a lot of money in the system, a lot of new businesses starting out, and business was good during those few years or a couple of years after COVID. But as soon as adversity hit, as soon as things slowed down to kind of a normal work pace, and people started going through a couple of tax cycles and realizing, hey, actually, I'm not making as much money as I thought I was going to, and I'm certainly not working any less, and life isn't actually all that better. And this idea of, we're not getting leads coming in anymore. Money isn't flowing in. So now we have to dig in and start marketing and get out there and start knocking on doors. And it's like, that seems like a lot of work. So I'm just gonna pack up shop and go back to doing what I was doing, but it was a good learning lesson, right? And arguably that's probably what a lot of those people should do, because they don't have the same. If you don't have a high tolerance for risk, if you don't have an appetite for being able to compartmentalize, like you're talking about, and prioritize, and maybe people have bigger families and they have priorities that they need to take care of. So going into business for yourself isn't necessarily the best route for everybody. I think that anybody can be a business owner. I think that anybody can be an entrepreneur, but not everybody should.
Yeah.
And
I think that's valid.
that was one thing that we really saw over COVID, or after COVID, especially around 2023, 2024, getting into the last couple of years, we've certainly seen a lot of that. But to your point, going through that kind of adversity, you learn a tremendous amount about yourself. You understand what it is that you're made of. You understand really what it is that you value, what it is that you need in your life, whether that is a desire for adventure or whether it's security, right? You understand pretty quickly what is most meaningful for you and your current situation.
I completely agree. The lessons that we've learned have been very good, to the point where, and I think this is maybe an important one for the audience, when the good time, when things are good, there's always the ability to get distracted. It's like, okay, this is good, what next? So for instance, in our instance, because we really messed up here, is, as I mentioned, like the e-com business, like, was where we started, and it allowed us to like really take off through COVID. And that's the cash cow. That's kind of the cash cow of the business from a distribution perspective, from a channel perspective. And then equally, we've got all these different categories. So we've got suspension and like armor, with bumpers, steps, and what have you. And we've got recovery gear and camping gear and all this other lighting and blah, 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 which globally Ironman does. And in Australia, they sell kind of a lot of that stuff. But what we started to do as we became successful and had this, revenue, because it went from like 7 to 15 to like 20, and we were like north of 20 million in like 2023-ish, I think it was. But what we've done is start to look in other places. So e-com's over here as the cash cow from a channel perspective. It's like, oh, well, what about like building stores like they do in Australia? What about, and we started doing that. So we went and opened and built 6 stores with partners across the west half of the US, which also means investing in people, investing in materials, contractor relationships, investing in inventory, blah, 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 blah. Then there was, what about wholesale distributors as well? Let's go there as well, because it looks like there's an opportunity there. And then we've done really well with suspension and, some of the armor, and certainly with rooftop tents and awnings. But like, let's try the lighting and this, that, and the other, and the other. And that was a big mistake, because what we did was take our focus off, by doing all these other things, we took our focus off e-com, and e-com didn't suffer immediately. But now in 2025 and 2026, e-com's like not in a good place. And we've been in the process of like rebuilding and refocusing. And the same from a product perspective. Like we started doing all these products, which means that we're diluting our marketing. And we are spending money on a lot more inventory across the breadth of categories, which means that we then start going out of stock on suspension. And we're also not getting the message out on suspension as hard as we were when we were purely focused on that. So equally, like suspension starts to drop off as well. So obviously, I've gone through that kind of gone through that kind of realization driven by data, which is vital in a business, to go, oh shit, this is a real problem, these distractions. And that over the course of the last few years, I've been unwinding a lot of the nonsense that we carried out over the course of 2021, 22, 23, when times were good. It's like, you know what, that was a really bad idea. What we should have done is we found the kind of vein of gold, just mine that. Go freaking hard on e-com and like suspension and be known for that rather than trying to be 20 different things to 20 different people. Yeah. Big lesson. Painful. And thankfully, we were kind of financially sound enough to be able to ride that through, but lots of other people wouldn't be.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, I love what you said before, back to these early stages in COVID, right? There wasn't much going on. It was like, do we have product? Do we have customers? Do we have people? Okay, let's just deploy everything that we have. Let's just stay on the tracks and go. And those began the rapid growth years. They happen quite quickly.
Yeah, correct.
You're right. When things are going really well, you're thinking like, okay, I got things under control. I got things dialed. I'm going to take things off my foot off the gas a little bit, and let's go focus on this over here because this seems to be doing all right. And then all of a sudden, there's so much time and effort and spent on what's going on over here that as soon as shit arises over here, it's like, I don't have the time and the resources to get back to do this because I got all these other things I have to handle as well. And but focus is huge. I mean, I've been running this business here now for 16 years, and we've certainly expanded in some different directions and have felt the same pain points that you're talking about right now, right? It's different people, it's different processes, it's different contract types, it's different payment terms, it's different reporting. It's all of a sudden you're handing over a lot of the power of what you've built to the into the hands of a different entity that it's a very different game and they control the rules. And that was where, what we ended up doing. And it became pretty clear. All right, this is just not a game that I want to play. I would rather set the terms ourselves, stay focused on what we're doing, deliver an excellent service to our customers that know us for what it is that we're good for, and just, go hard at the highest level, right? Every single customer that we work with, we review every single project that we do. Every single customer that we work with, we do a full deep dive after every project and halfway through, right? What's going well? What do the customers need? How are they reacting? The subcontractors that we have on board, how are they performing? The suppliers, how are they doing? In-house staff, how do we feel the project is being managed? We'll look at data, right, as far as how much was the original budget versus projected, how far are we scheduled, like we'll go on that. Okay, what can we do to get on track? Because we know that every single customer that we work with, like our best process and our best experience is always going to be our next experience, our next customer that works with us, similar to the golf shot, right? It's like 100%. The next best or the best shot that you're going to have has got to be that next shot that you take. It's just these small iterations, and whether or not it is like you may still shank it and putt in for a double bogey, but you can't go into it with that mindset. You can't go into that next hole off of the high of the hole that you've birdied 2 holes before, 3 holes before, thinking that this is going to carry the rest of your game. And so I share that a lot, the ability to stay focused. And I think as entrepreneurs, that's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do, including myself. And I'm looking at I'm looking at the next like 40 years, right?
Mhm.
What does that look like? And it looks very different from what I'm doing right now in a lot of ways. And the question is, all right, well, what is the time frame and that map look like? Because ultimately, what you're working on right now, and 4x4 Ironman is probably going to look wildly different in 20 years. The
Mhm.
question that always comes back is, when do you know it's the right time to take that next step and evolve? Otherwise, you're going to continue doing the same thing. When is the right time to jump on that opportunity and start turning some of that focus? When is that next opportunity to buy that warehouse and expand into retail or wholesaling? Because there's inevitably a good opportunity there, but it just might not be the right timing.
Yeah, 100%. There's a few things that, again, I think it comes down to, first and foremost, you've got to have like your core's got to be strong. That you can't do anything until that is just like locked down. And then when it comes to like other things, and this is not my framework, that Coca-Cola use this. It's the kind of 70-20-10. So the way that they approach it from a product range and also a marketing perspective, and lots of other businesses use this as well, it's kind of become a universal way of operating. 70% of their effort goes into Coca-Cola. It's like it's the core product, like, so all of their money for inventory and systems and advertising goes into Coca-Cola. It's the cash cow. Then they've got 20%, which goes into kind of things that are just like slightly adjacent to it. I don't know, cherry Coke or something like that. But it's something that's not the core, but it's adjacent, and they think it's an opportunity. They think it's an opportunity. They allocate 20% of the marketing spend and 20% of the resources. And then there's the things that are wildly off the map that could be the thing, the moonshot. That's the 10%. So they've got a little skunkworks team. If it was Toyota or somebody like that, they've got this little team over there probing and working on that 10%. And again, it gets the appropriate investment and attention. That's how I've seen a lot of the big organizations evolve. And evolution doesn't come overnight, and put their focus so that they are always kind of moving forward and testing, all the while looking after the cash cow of the business today.
Yeah, there's been a number of people that have talked on just that. It's this idea of best, better, new, right? It's like,
okay,
hey, we know that 70% of our time is going to be spent on the best thing that we do, that we know that we're doing right now. We're going to spend 20% of our time doing something that we think may make the business a bit better, right? The cherry Coke of the Coca-Cola, or the vanilla Coke, right? Like that was a for a hot minute there. And then that 10% is really that, let's try something totally new. Let's see where that goes. Let's see where that leads us. And knowing that is going to be that moonshot. And quite often it comes back to, all right, let's just focus on that 70%, because we know that this is going. We know that the market loves us. And that's where we need to focus continue focusing our attention on, and just continuing to refine that and get better and better until there's an opportunity to step out. But you really can't, without trying anything new, you're never going to change. And things are never going to really evolve. And ultimately that's what people, they appreciate in companies, is the chances that they take, and the opportunity that they see in the company, the opportunity that they see in the leader to be able to provide with an organization, especially if they believe in it, they believe where the company's going. But man, the world is changing so quickly. Like I saw Jack Dorsey. He's the CEO of Square.
Yep.
Right. He just announced, he's like, massive layoffs. He's
4,000 people, I think it was, right?
Yeah, laying off 4,000 people. And his announcement to the team was, hey, I know you've been here to build this thing, but AI is taken over, and the company isn't going anywhere. But I inevitably have a choice.
Mhm.
I can slowly and painfully bleed money from the company and keep people around a little bit longer, or I can make the decision now, kind of ruthlessly, but it's going to be the thing that is inevitably going to happen
Ripping
based
the
on the direction
Band-Aid
of the
off.
company, and rip that Band-Aid off and do what needs to
Yeah.
be done.
Yep.
And there was, and so people don't, you can't necessarily these days, like, it's so hard to predict with AI, the pace that it's moving, how quickly things are going to change, and how quickly people are going to see what is possible. I mean, there was a video that just went out, and it was, I forget the name of the company, and there was just this like beautifully high production movie trailer that went out, and it was this, and they got a cease and desist letter by Disney because it was so powerful that it would otherwise take millions of dollars, and I think they said it would be like $500 million, had a production value of like a $500 million $500 million
Yeah.
set and production crew through CGI and working this out. And this was done in like 16 hours by somebody that really knows how to prompt this well and work with that. And it was like, okay, this is moving way too fast for us. Cease and desist order. I don't know where that's going to end up, but like that is really going to be up to us as human beings to decide how far we're going to let this go based on our vision. But in the meantime, we're in this really weird space of, we don't know, what's going to be best, what's going to work well for the company, what's going to be efficient. Do we need to hold on to people? Do we need to let people go? And a lot of people are trying to figure that out right now. I do believe that, especially what we do, like we are very much a people business, right? Like what we do is people talking to people, building these relationships with people. And there's a lot of power in that. We were talking offline before we started the podcast about AI, right? It was like, okay, it's ChatGPT, and then it's Claude, and then it's Manus, and now it's like, all right, now Manus is maybe not doing the as good of a job as Claude now, so it's back to Claude, and then everything that, like, the Claude had an agreement with the U.S. government to come on and be their like go-to LLM platform, and they realized, hey, they actually backed out of it because they said, that we understand that there's some security concerns and we don't want to give away the data that the government is proposing that we do, and we feel like it's probably not the right play for humanity. And then OpenAI stepped in and said, hey, we'll take that contract. And now all of a sudden you see 300% users drop off of OpenAI because they've given up their ChatGPT subscriptions due to a potential move like that. Like, we are in a wild time, my friend, of figuring that of figuring stuff out. But all of this, back to adversity, right? We're going through great times, but we're going through some level of adversity right now where everybody is kind of uncertain about things. People are up in the air. If they're not using AI, they feel like they're falling behind. Social media is pushing in their face saying, like, if you're not using it, you're falling behind. Your business is already dead. Forget about it. You don't have a shot in hell. And there's people that are,
Is that your algorithm? No.
That could be it, right? Is that your algorithm? I don't know. But I talked to my mom. She's got a thriving business that she bought like 5 years ago, and it's a women's consignment clothing store. And she doesn't use AI for any of that. And she's got a lot of people that come in. And so that, there's a lot of great businesses out there.
This episode is sponsored by New Vision Projects, and everybody has heard the horror stories that happen. They have a friend of a friend or a neighbor that's been renovating for years on end, or they've been building a home and it just hasn't gone the way that it needed to go. Budgets are blown through the roof, timelines, forget about them. New Vision Projects has an incredibly strong track record for over 15 years of working with customers, serving them at the highest level. If you are considering building or renovating, check them out on Instagram at New Vision Projects or at newvisionprojects.com. Building the homes you want with the confidence you need. New Vision has you covered. Let them show you why they're different. Back to the show.
It really depends on what it is that you want to do. But if you're talking building at scale, rapidly moving quickly, like systems being built with AI is going to be inevitable for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, you cannot ignore that. Let's just call it the back office of a business is going to go through a huge overhaul. Now, you've also got like the audience. The audience needs to go with it, and the adoption rate is going to start off slow. And I think you and I are probably on the somewhat early adopter kind of phase. It's the whole bell curve, right? Early adopter, then there's the masses, then there's the late adopters. I think it's still kind of very much early adopter area, and there are different levels of skill that exist there. But it's 100% coming, certainly from a back office perspective, because the productivity, speed that you can get out of it is even now phenomenal. And again, what you see people creating online or within peer groups, because people have got different skill sets, is pretty incredible. It's only gonna grow. It's get to a point, like you say. It's like, when does it stop? We need to have that choice, or we need to have that discussion of like, where does it stop? That's where the governments come in, right? And it's really where the government comes in. It's like, what's the line? And also, certainly in the US, they're very much gung-ho on AI because of the AI arms race against the other like big countries like your China and Russia and whoever else. So yeah, I think there's going to have to be a big consequence. There's going to have to be a problem that occurs before they really do anything about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation about that, right? How is this going to affect humanity? And back to my 4.5-year-old daughter, I'm trying to figure out how to best communicate and explain this to her. And I've come to the conclusion that I probably won't need to, because when she's older, it's just like she's going to learn at the same pace that every other 4-year-old that's 4 and 5 and 6 right now is going to learn. And it's going to be introduced to her sort of in the same way that, kids that, didn't grow up with the internet, now kids are growing up with the internet. Kids that didn't grow up with smartphones versus kids that now have smartphones, they just always feel like, all right, well, what do you mean you never had apps on your phone? What do you mean you could never just, text somebody or video call somebody? It was like, I remember the T9 text. We had to get in there and press, a ton of buttons. And like before that happened, and I used to go to 7-Eleven and buy minutes for my cell phone. I go, and, drop $20 and I'd get 18 minutes of talking on my phone or whatever it was. And I'd have to like take it out and put in a code, and then I would get more time on my phone. Those are things that like our kids are just never going to have to understand.
Not all. I do. I am my son. Well, I've got 2 kids, and my son's 13 in a week or 2, and they do not use AI at school. And I'm like, that is, in my opinion, that is such a fail on the education system, because again, like, this is a thing, and the quicker that kids can get a grip of it, the better position they're going to be for what businesses need. Like, today as a business, I need like people that are shit hot at AI to increase productivity. So when you talk about kids going into the workforce, they need to have these skills.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm an advocate for kids being exposed to AI, obviously responsibly, and I think it really should come into the education system as quickly as possible. But the situation is, I think the situation is that the government and the authorities don't understand it either. So
I think they're trying to figure out the cognitive, you know, results of spending so much time on AI and outsourcing a lot of the thinking that you would otherwise do, rather, maybe independently, but also in a group, right? Like there's a lot that can come together, as much as you talk about adversity, right? Getting in the room with a good group of people, brainstorming on a certain idea. It builds more than just ideas. It builds camaraderie. It builds alignment. It does a lot of great stuff. It gives people the ability to talk and be heard, and it gives people the opportunity to listen, and it drives the skill to have to like be open to other people's opinions, and gives you the ability to now work on your candor, and provide feedback, and also not take that feedback in a negative way. Like there's just so much good stuff that comes from collaboration and working with people that's outside of just the end result of what it is that you're looking for. And I think that there's a good mix. Like I still think that you can get around a good group of people and talk about and brainstorm with AI. Like AI will be a part of the conversation and still utilize that. And yeah, I think that's probably where a lot of this is coming from, is trying to understand that, just like the cognitive and brain development of youth, and at what point does it make sense to hand over a steering wheel to them and a driver's license, and at what age does it make sense to let them drink alcohol and smoke weed and gamble, and how is that going to change things? And so I think they're really trying to figure that out, because they just don't know.
Right? That's absolutely fair.
And it will be probably different in varying countries, the same way that alcohol is, right? Like if you're in Europe versus Mexico versus Canada versus a US, like I don't know, we're all human beings. It's all alcohol, it's all weed, it's all gambling, but it's different ages because they've defined, whatever that looks like. So yeah, I don't know, man, but it's a wild time. I'm really looking forward to the future. Like I think it's gonna get pretty crazy. I was telling you offline, like I'm giving a workshop on AI in a couple of weeks here locally. Something I thought I'd never be able to do, or never be asked to do, which I thought was kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know. I'm doing it, so I'm curious to get some of the feedback from some of the people that I'm talking to, because these are going to be folks that have never really used AI before. Is what I'm guessing is going to turn up, and so be curious to see.
Yeah, it does blow my mind how many people don't know it exists yet. It's like some people don't even know what ChatGPT is. There's a massive crowd out there that are kind of not up to speed with what's going on, which is also scary. Especially with, like you said, how fast this is accelerating and the impact that it's going to have on people's lives in terms of the workforce.
And to your point about them coming out of school, right? What we need in business, like one of the number one things that we look for on resumes is what's your understanding with AI. In the same way that it used to be, how proficient are you with Microsoft Word, and how many words per minute can you type? Microsoft Excel, are you good with spreadsheets? Now it's like, okay, show me your prompts, right? How well can you engineer or prompt engineer Claude or GPT, because this is going to show me how proficient you are in getting the work done that you need to do. But just like, I felt, coming out of high school, I mean, I barely graduated high school, but I'm working with an organization now. I volunteer there. I have been for the last 7 or 8 years, and it's an entrepreneurship program working with high school students, and
Awesome.
it's because there's a sense of like entrepreneurship and business that just was not available to me when I was in high school, and just so many of us when we were in high school. And I believe so wholeheartedly that these are good skills. These are life skills that when they come out of school, they're going to know what they're going to be doing. They're not just going to, graduate and then go to university for 4 or 5 years for an arts degree and come out of that a huge amount in debt and not have any skills to actually enter the workforce. So I'm looking at, well, what is the workforce going to need in order to move this forward? And they're going to need people that have real skills. And these kids in high school, they need to learn real skills. So let's teach them the real skills that they are going to need. That is going to be useful. That is going to be helpful. And of course, like, let's just spend more time making sure that they're going to be kind human beings and that they can, still think for themselves. I think that there's a really solid middle ground if people can become educated around it.
Completely agree.
Man, Luke, this has been so much fun, brother. It's been awesome having you on the show.
Thank you. Likewise.
Where can people find you if they want to reach out and connect?
So for me personally, I'm on Instagram and I'm posting there every single day. It's at Luke_Schnacker. From a brand perspective, we are at Ironman4x4America.com or just Ironman4x4America.com for a website perspective. So they're going to be the primary places for me and then for the brand.
I love that, man, and I love your products too. And next time I'm ramping up for my next accessories for my truck, I'm gonna reach out. I actually have to get new tires on there. They're pretty bald, so I'm looking for a new set of stuff pretty quick.
Okay, well, let me know. I know people that even if it's not our stuff, I can get wholesale prices on everything: wheels, tires, suspension, like tonneau covers, the works. So don't go buying it without having a chat with me first.
All right. Well, that goes for all you listeners out there, I'm sure as well. I'm sure Luke's going to extend that offer. So, Luke, if your inbox gets lit up after this with requests for parts, don't be surprised. Yeah, truck accessories. All right, man. Luke, thanks so much for being here. It's been awesome having you. And to all our listeners that are out there and still with us, as always, I'm here rooting for you to win. Until next time, stay blessed. Cheers. Rock and roll. Have a great day. See ya.